June 3rd, 2011, from the stylish high-tech underground studios of Ribbit Media in surprisingly non-post-apocalyptic Warwick, Rhode Island, this is NewsUndies. For June 3rd, 2011, this is NewsUndies, all the news that shouldn't be news. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. Volcanic island surprises many with volcanic eruption. We will never hear anything from Oprah ever again. Tornadoes rock Tornado Alley. OWN, presciently named TV network, means we will never be free of Oprah ever again. Ever. Fertile Mississippi floodplains flood plainly. God fails to end world on cue. Harold Camping, fraud or fraud? Pope phones space station. No one knows why. World Health Organization points to possible cancer risk from cell phones. Ted Haggard announces he's completely bisexual. Microsoft previews Windows 8. The crowd goes mild. Mom injects daughter with Botox. Or does she? World Health Organization points to possible cancer risk from carpentry. Roy Zimmerman frantically rewrites viral song. Spirit gives up the ghost. Rover left for dead on Red Planet. When famous people fall over like top-heavy bowling pins, we get Ollie Oliphant to pick through the wreckage. Ollie? Jackie Cooper, actor. Bernard Greenhouse, cellist. M-Bone, rapper. Randy Poffo, wrestler. Jeff Conaway, actor. Quite. Thanks, Ollie. GOP contenders. Tracing back his roots, U.S. President Barack Hussein Obama took a break from killing terrorists, facing natural disasters, and trying to keep the GOP in check, and visited his ancestral home of Ireland. Yes, Ireland, the East African nation that... Wait. Okay, so apparently Obama's mother was of Irish ancestry. He's not a Reagan or a Kennedy, but apparently the Irish will take what they can get. Alright, so this is a little dumb. It's been proposed that a new Navy resupply ship be named after labor organizer Cesar Chavez. Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association in 1962. Eventually, that became the United Farm Workers. He has been widely honored for focusing on farm workers and helping bring them better pay and safer working conditions. Representative Duncan Hunter, Republican from California, said in a statement that in naming a ship for Chavez, the Navy is paying too much attention to politics and not enough to tradition. Yeah, like naming aircraft carriers after not-dead-yet Republican ex-presidents. Ford, Bush, Reagan. That's not political or anything. It's traditional. We've always done that. What? Oh, we haven't. Okay. Cranston High School West in nearby Cranston, Rhode Island, has been the center of a locally simmering controversy for quite a while because of a banner hung in the auditorium. Cranston West is a public high school. Here's me with a live on-a-scene report. Me? I'm standing in front of Cranston High School West, where sophomore and atheist Jessica Alquist has been stirring the pot over a banner that's hung in the school for decades. The banner contains a school prayer. It seems strange that Cranston High School West, with its slogan, "A place where we treat people as we would like people to treat us," would be the place where such a fight would go down. The U.S. Supreme Court first ruled that government-sponsored prayer in public schools was unconstitutional in 1962. The prayer, as it reads on the banner, is as follows, quote, "Our Heavenly Father, grant us each day the desire to do our best, to grow mentally and morally as well as physically, to be kind and helpful to our classmates and teachers, to be honest with ourselves as well as with others. Help us to be good sports and smile when we lose as well as when we win. Teach us the value of true friendship. Help us always to conduct ourselves so as to bring credit to Cranston High School West. Amen." End quote. The proportion of people on either side of this issue seem to fall along the same lines as the proportion of religious versus non-religious in the community at large. The strange thing, though, is that with a slogan like "a place where we treat people as we would like people to treat us," that this behavior of putting this sign up and oppressing a minority seems to be, not particularly ecumenical. Standing in front of Cranston High School West for some reason, I'm Paul Torville for News Undies. Thanks, me. Incidentally, if you support the removal of the banner, why not join the Facebook group Support the Removal of the Cranston High School West Prayer? As the 2012 presidential election barely registers as a shimmering speck on the horizon, we begin another round of the occasional News Undies segment, Political Suicide Watch. Here are some folks to keep an eye on, as they'll likely hoist their political careers by their own petard. Newt Gingrich, between his mouth running on autopilot and his finger on the pulse of Reagan-era conservatism, he's bound to be a second runner-up to the also-rans. John Edwards. The whole John Edwards thing. Mike Huckabee, the Fox News commentator and former Arkansas governor, seems to find his cushy guaranteed job at Fox News far more reliable than the one at the White House. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The whole John Edwards thing. Tim Pawlenty lost out to Sarah Palin in 2008. Clearly a shoo-in to beat Obama. Sarah Palin continues to be Sarah Palin. Donald Trump. Despite being a loudmouth bankruptcy-dependent mortgage whore, Trump managed to garner the support of the anti-deficit Tea Party crowd. Alas, his fixation on the president's birth certificate proved him to be no more politically astute than a honey badger with a $1,000 a day angel dust habit. Gary Johnson, libertarian. Next. Michelle Bachmann continues to be Sarah Palin. Anthony Weiner, victim or not, clearly doesn't have a handle on damage control. Back in October, we reported on an Atlanta, Georgia megachurch pastor who had been accused of improper behavior with young parishioners. Bishop Eddie Long has now settled with the 4 young men who accused him of, among other things, sexual coercion. Long had long railed against gay rights, gay marriage, sodomy, oral sex, masturbation. His accusers called into question his sincerity and internal consistency, and rather than demonstrate that he would not, could not, and in fact did not do the things of which he was accused, he preferred to pay his accusers for silence. And his flock? Unperturbed. Perfectly sensible. The Pope let out a yawning, slouching, passive-aggressive instruction that asked the Catholic clergy to kind of lay off the raping and molestation of children. And if anyone is found to have, felt around in the cookie jar, well, it would be best to cooperate with the secular authorities if they come around asking questions. Don't, turn the guy in or anything. Just, if they come sniffing around, asking specific questions, just give them specific answers, but don't, volunteer anything. Douche. Strangely, past victims and their families were less than impressed with this toe-gazing, dust-kicking, half-hearted, indirect admission something might be wrong with the Catholic Church and the way it's been run. Almost as if, the Pope really is the top boss and he doesn't report to anyone. It's almost exactly like that. The Pope called the International Space Station. Really? I want to see him go up on the maiden voyage of the VSS Enterprise. Then I'll be impressed. tablet computers. Alaska Airlines will now be putting its flight plans on iPads. I wonder if the pilots will have to turn them off between ground and 10,000 feet. If I was a betting man, I'd say, absolutely not! Of course, that means the turn off all your crap rule is a, well, load of crap. But we all knew that anyway, didn't we? Sure we did. A top climate scientist who spoke to NewsUndies on condition of anonymity commented on the apparent increase in severity of weather events in recent years, most notably the rains that led to the flooding of the Mississippi Basin and the intense tornadoes of the last couple of weeks, and the possible causal link between these events and global climate change. What follows is a reenactment of his comments.
You see that? You see that? I tried to tell them. But would they listen? No!
Chilling. Family radio stirred up a huge fuss, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a media blitz to warn of a judgment day that never came. Some believers sold all their possessions or quit their jobs. A few committed suicide. Is this a question of personal responsibility, or should camping be prosecuted? Here are Pig and Sheep with their thoughts.
Absolutely not. Hell, camping may have been a little bit off in his calculations, but just because some of his followers allowed their lives to taper off or run out of resources just as the world was ending, or just plain committed suicide, that doesn't mean camping is responsible. This is a free country. The Constitution guarantees freedom of speech for every religious loon, no matter how nutty they are. So shut the hell up, you heathens. And besides, if camping is a fraud, preaching false religion, God will get him in the afterlife. So you atheists have nothing to worry about. Amen. Woo!
As much as it pains me to say this, he sort of danced around a valid point. The free speech provisions of the First Amendment are often construed to permit just the sort of speech Camping and his group had engaged in. Caveat emptor is just as apt a warning in the realm of religion as it is in the world of used cars. Come to think of it, they're really the same world. Anyway, these people who were taken in by Harold Camping may have some recourse in civil courts, but pursuing criminal charges would likely open up a can of worms jurists across the country have been avoiding for decades. A test for truth of religious claims.
That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. Planking? Everything and everyone around the world has been completely and utterly sane, sensible, rational, and reasonable. Except the family radio wackos and the Middle East. And the weather. Oh, and that magnetic Russian kid. That was pretty weird. But other than that, May was pretty calm. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Sarah Palin is back. Yay! She kicked off her carefully timed and orchestrated publicity bus tour by riding into Washington, D.C. on the back of a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Low pandering? Most certainly. Is she running for president in 2012? Maybe. Maybe not. One thing is for sure. A so-called documentary highlighting Palin's rise to power in a highly favorable light is on the way. The really good news? The Palin flick is scheduled for release next month in L.A.? No. New York? No. Peoria, Illinois? No. Iowa. Well, at least it isn't politically motivated. Well, that's all for this edition of News Undies. Remember, News Undies is a monthly show, and we'll be back on Friday, July 1st, with fresh undies. If you see news that shouldn't be news, email your story tips to undies@newsundies.com. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be checking my insurance policies to see if there are exclusions for acts of God. Of course there are exclusions for acts of God. Come on, it's insurance. What, you think they want to pay claims? Come on. Muzzle and job for 5 minutes. It's a whole half minute of sports.